Hello listeners and welcome to Boomerang. This week our team is made up of me, George.
And me, Linda.
And me, Steve.
And me, Wendy.
And this week we don't have with us our previous team leader, Bob. And if you remember from the last time we were here 6 weeks ago, Bob announced that he was going to take early retirement at 92 and he now has left the team. But we did have an afternoon out at Dalmahoy for afternoon tea, which he enjoyed very, very much. And he was absolutely delighted with his afternoon. We didn't all manage. Paul was involved, the engineer was involved at Glen Eagles. He outpaced us there. And we've got another member of the team couldn't come either because, well, Steve, tell him what you were doing.
Yeah, thanks, George. Part of my work, I work as a semi-professional actor, and I was involved in some filming of a feature film called Guardians of Loch Ness. So I was up at Aviemore filming that, and my role is an evil boatman in this fantasy action adventure. So Guardians of Loch Ness, that'll be out next year. So we'll keep you updated.
Thanks, Steve. Well, let's continue. As usual, the news will be broken into several sections, and we will begin with some of the headline material in the paper. And there's a rather gruesome title to the first article. Murder hunt after body found on street. And it says here that detectives want to hear from anyone who spotted victims' car. A community has been left in shock after the murder of a popular Livingston grandad. Gary Nicholl, 50, from Deans, was pronounced dead after being found in Bankton Lane in Murison on September the 26th. Following a post-mortem examination, the day after he was found, Gary's death was being treated as unexplained. However, further inquiries led the police to believe that he was murdered. Detective Chief Inspector Jonathan Please from Police Scotland's Major Investigation Team joined Local Commander Chief Inspector Elaine MacArthur-Kerr outside the Livingston Police Station on Tuesday to appeal for the public's help in catching Gary's killer. DCI Pleasance said, "We are trying to piece together Mr. Nicholl's movements prior to his body being found and would ask anyone with any information to contact officers. This is a challenging investigation, and any piece of information, no matter how small or insignificant you think it is, could prove vital, so please do pass it on." Tributes poured in for Gary by those who knew him, with him being described as a true gentleman. Annette Fleming said he had a terrific sense of humour and laughed at things others couldn't see as funny, but he was a very proud dad of Cameron, Taylor and Finlay, and he just doted on his grandkids. The next part of the article goes on to say that a murder inquiry has been launched following the death of a man in Livingston around 2 a.m. on Thursday the 26th. Officers were called to a report of a man found with serious injuries in Bankton Lane. The 50-year-old, who can now be named as Gary Nicholl from Livingston, was pronounced dead at the scene. Following a post-mortem examination the day after he was found, Gary's death was being treated as unexplained. However, further inquiries by a dedicated team of specialist officers have been carried out, and circumstances now lead to this being treated as murder. Mr. Nicholl's family are aware and are being supported by specifically trained officers. They have asked that their privacy is respected at this difficult time. Extensive inquiries continue to be carried out by officers from Police Scotland's major investigation team. Officers from the local division and operational support units have also been involved in this complex investigation. From inquiries so far, detectives have established that Mr. Nicholl drove to Bankton Lane in his black Ford Mondeo, registration GN02GRN, and arrived there around midnight. Detective Chief Inspector Jonathan Pleasance from Police Scotland's major investigation team said, "Our thoughts are with Mr. Nicholl's family and his friends at this very difficult time. It is vital that we get answers for them, and we are fully committed to tracing the person responsible as soon as possible." Our investigation into Mr. Nicholl's death continued, and I would urgently appeal to anyone with information who has not already spoken with us to please do so. We are keen to hear from anyone who saw a car of this description in the area around midnight, or anyone or vehicles in and around the Bankton Lane area. We are trying to piece together Mr. Nicholl's movements prior to his body being found, and would ask anyone with any information to contact officers. This is a challenging investigation, and any piece of information, no matter how small or insignificant that you think it is, could prove vital, so please do pass it on. Local Area Commander Chief Inspector Elaine MacArthur Kerr said, "We understand the significant impact that this has had on the people of Livingston, and there is a dedicated team of officers working on this investigation. I would like to reassure the community that officers are working hard to trace whoever is responsible, with CCTV footage being gathered from the surrounding area and door-to-door inquiries continuing. Detailed forensic work has been carried out, and extensive searches of nearby woodland have been undertaken by specialist officers. Anyone with information is asked to contact 101, quoting the number 0278 of 26 September 2024. Alternatively, you can call Crime Stoppers on A800 555 111, where information can be given anonymously."
And I can give a little update to the listeners that an arrest was made today in respect of the murder of Gary Nicholl. Thanks, George. So, on to my sad story here. Mum dies 1 week after call to NHS 24 for advice on cough. A mum of 4 has died just 1 week after she called NHS 24 over a cough. Kirsten McLean, 37, was found to be suffering from pneumonia when she was blue lighted to hospital, but further scans diagnosed her with breast cancer. Treatment to fight her lung infection wouldn't work, and doctors made the decision to put her into an induced coma with a 50-50 chance that she would wake up again. But within 48 hours, all her vital organs had completely failed. Her devastated sister, Sarah, said the family is in shock at her sudden, rapid decline, as she leaves behind her young daughters, Cara, 15, Stephanie, 13, Lacey, 11, and Charlotte, just 11 months. Sarah said, "I just can't believe she's gone, and she never even got the chance to see Charlotte turn 1. It's just heartbreaking." Charlotte obviously has no idea what's going on, but we're determined that Kirsten will be remembered by her because she was just the greatest mum. We have to keep going for all 4 of her girls and be a shoulder for them to cry on, but it's very hard. They're all struggling. Kirsten's family noticed she had become less like her bubbly self around 6 weeks ago after developing a cough. She was spending a lot of time in bed and was very lethargic. The mum was waiting for a follow-up appointment after initial concerns she might have had asthma. But tragedy struck on the night of September 22nd when Kirsten became breathless. Mark, her partner of 17 years, persuaded Kirsten to ring NHS 24 out of concern. And after getting an out-of-hours appointment, she was blue lighted to Wishaw General Hospital as her oxygen levels were only at 80%. Mark came home to the girls, but the next day he received a message from Kirsten that said he needed to come to the hospital right away. Sarah explained, "I was watching the girls, but I later phoned asking what had happened, and he just burst out crying. A CT scan showed that she had breast cancer as well as pneumonia. There was nothing they could do to treat the cancer until Kirsten recovered from her infection. So over the following days they did all they could to treat the pneumonia, but it just was not budging. The last course of action the staff could do was to put Kirsten in an induced coma as her body was so weak, but the family were warned it came with huge risk, with a 50-50 chance that she would wake up. Even when they tried to move her to ICU, it was too risky because she was so ill. Kirsten from Har Hill agreed to the induced coma and promised Mark she would fight this and said goodbye to her girls on Sunday, September 30th. However, by the following day, things were not improving and her organs started to give up. On Tuesday morning, doctors told us that her kidneys, liver and lungs had all failed. They switched her life support off and she passed away with her family around her. It just all happened in a blink of an eye. She was such a bright, bubbly person, loved her life, and being a mum was her world. She always had a smile on her face. She never drank or smoked, and that's why it's such a shock. I just can't believe she's gone at such an early age. We now think she had been ill for some time, but she's the sort of person who would just take paracetamol and get on with it. Maybe she was scared, but I just wish she'd done something sooner." Almost £5,000 has been raised for Kirsten's family and her young girls, and you can donate at gofundme.com.
This is one of two articles we've got this week on Baby Loss Awareness Week, and this one's by Carla Talbot, and it's titled "Parents United to Help with All the Heartbreak of Losing Their Infant at Birth." In 2002, Marion Curry received the devastating news that no expecting parent wants to hear, that she had miscarried and her baby had died at 17 weeks. Marion and her husband Ian had only just weeks before been excited about welcoming their second child to join their 7-year-old son David when they felt like their world had fallen apart. Leslie was born in May 2002, weighing just 170 grams and was 22 centimetres long. But after the birth, there was no celebration, and Marion was left facing having to plan her daughter's funeral. To try and cope with her loss, the devastated mum turned to a new form of support, an online forum, where she met another bereaved mother, Carolyn Bray. Carolyn's daughter Rebecca died in June, bringing the two women together in their loneliness and grief, and they comforted each other in an online forum. The pair realised that there must be thousands of other women facing the same heartbreak, and with the internet only just beginning in its trajectory, may not have had any support like they had found in each other. It was then that their lifelong bond began, and Baby Loss Awareness Week was formed. Marion from Musselburgh said the NHS can treat the physical symptoms, but the emotional and psychological aspects are a different matter, as is the deluge of grief. Lots of people say friends and family often avoid the subject, and we certainly found that out. You're left to deal with your grief alone. She continued, "I found the forums and online support groups to be really helpful, and it is what sparked this whole movement. I was able to connect with people who were going through what I was, and I wanted to give that comfort to more people. What began 22 years ago as a small group of parents crafting and selling handmade blue and pink ribbon pins has now grown into a campaign that brings together millions of people from across the world to remember their much loved and missed babies. Held from the 9th to the 15th of October every year, the Poignant campaign also aims to raise awareness of pregnancy and baby loss and educate people on how it affects thousands of people each year across the UK. In Scotland, some of the country's biggest landmarks have been lit up blue and pink on October the 15th at 7 p.m, to mark the wave of light, a poignant celebration in which people acknowledge their losses and remember their babies. Many people also light candles, which they display in the windows of their homes to show solidarity with other grieving families. In previous years, the Kelpies, Edinburgh Castle and Balmoral Hotel have all been lit up in support, as well as many other buildings in towns across Scotland. Marion said, "We've had such great support when lighting up landmarks over the years. They provide people with a space they can go and be with other people who have been through what they have, and gives people a chance to connect." Marion, who tragically went on to lose another baby, John, in 2006, is still hugely involved in the campaign today. Both women now work for SANS, which leads Baby Loss Awareness Week, chairing an alliance of more than 150 charities across the UK. Together with the support of pregnancy and baby loss community and allies from across all sectors of the society, they continue to grow the campaign year on year. Just this year, Marion won Campaign of the Year at the 2004 GLOM AMA Awards, an accolade that Devoted Mums said was truly humbling. She continued, "I did not think for a second when we started this that I would still be involved today. It's such an emotional thing that I didn't know if I would be able to do it as long as I have. We didn't know it would grow into the size it has, and it's been truly humbling to know that what we've started gives support to people all over the world when they may feel the most alone." Over the years, Marion has watched the campaign spread far and wide, even impacting real change on how professionals and lawmakers handle what used to be considered a taboo subject. The Scottish Government, in partnership with the National Records of Scotland, now offers a free memorial book, which is open for anyone who has experienced pregnancy or baby loss prior to 24 weeks. The book gives parents an opportunity, if they wish, to commemorate their loss with a physical record. It was developed after listening to people who have experienced a pregnancy or baby loss prior to 24 weeks of pregnancy, and is a free, entirely optional service. In July 2023, the UK government released an independent report on pregnancy loss review led by two independent experts, Zoe Clark-Coates, MBE, BCAH, and Samantha Collins, RM, detailing 73 recommendations to improve the safety and care for all those who experience pregnancy loss before 24 weeks gestation. However, while she hails the support from charities, governments and other organisations, Marion feels there is still much more to be done to support women. In Scotland, parents who experience a miscarriage up to 23 weeks of pregnancy are entitled to 2 weeks of leave and pay. However, there is no statutory entitlement to leave for a miscarriage that occurs before 24 weeks of pregnancy, resulting in many being forced back into normal life before they are ready. Marion added, "What people don't always realise when you go through baby or pregnancy loss is that you are no longer the same person. You are forever changed by what has happened to you, and that can be really hard to go through, and also can cause ripples in a wider family as it affects everyone. It can also spread into your work and friendships. People just eventually expect you to move on, and you can't. I think there still needs to be more conversation and understanding about that." And there's a lovely picture of the display of the pink and blue ribbons on some railings in Musselburgh, and they're planning to do this in other places across the country.
Miscarriage statistics in the UK. 50% of adults in the UK said that they or someone they know had experienced pregnancy or baby loss. Most miscarriages happen in the first 12 weeks of pregnancy, known as the early miscarriage. Early miscarriages happen to 10 to 20 in 100, 10 to 20% of pregnancies. Second trimester loss, late miscarriage, happens to 1 in 2 in 100, 1 to 2% of pregnancies. Around 1 in 80, 1.25% pregnancies are ectopic. Most miscarriages are a one-off, and there is a good chance of having a successful pregnancy in the future. Get support. The Miscarriage Association is a charity that offers support to people who have lost a baby. They have a helpline, 01924 200 799 and an email address info@miscarriageassociation.org.uk and can put you in touch with a support volunteer. Cruise Bereavement Care helps people understand their grief and cope with their loss. They have a helpline 0808 808 1677 and a network of local branches where you can find support. SANS is a UK-based charity that supports people affected by the death of a baby. SANS aims to reduce the number of babies dying and to provide care and support to those who need it. They have a helpline 0808 164 3332 or visit their website at www.sans.org.uk/. Support for vital charities. The growth of baby loss awareness over the years has allowed more and more bereaved parents to get involved to remember their babies through a number of initiatives. The 2024 SANS Ribbon Run is a newer virtual event which takes place on Saturday, October the 12th during Baby Loss Awareness Week. It's a free event that allows participants to run, walk, jog or skip a 5, 10 or 15 kilometre distance. Participants can choose to complete the run alone or with friends and family. Glasgow woman Kirsty McDermott is organising an event in Strathclyde Country Park to raise money for SANS and has already raised almost £4,000. Kirsty and her partner Alan are taking part in the event in memory of their daughter Lillian, who was born sleeping on August the 10th this year. A scan at 17 weeks showed the expecting parents that Lillian has a rare genetic condition called hydrops fatalis, news which Kirsty said changed their lives forever. Further tests and scans revealed Lillian's condition was worsening, and doctors gave Kirsty and Alan the tragic news that their baby would not survive. Kirsty said it was the vital support from SANS that inspired her to take part in the event. She said, mere moments in our arms, but forever in our hearts. My partner Alan and I will always remember our daughter. I am organising the ribbon run in memory but also in celebration of Lily. Whilst her time with us was short, it has had a huge impact not just on our lives but the lives of those she will help by allowing us to fundraise in her honour. SANS has been invaluable support to Alan and I these last few weeks, as has talking and sharing our story with others. We know from sharing our story that others have been helped and hope that by sharing our story on a wider forum, we can also help others too, whilst also raising awareness of baby loss. Baby loss sadly happens far too frequently and should not be a taboo subject. We will always speak of our daughter, and she will always be our firstborn and part of us and our family. To make a donation, go to fundraising.sans.org.uk/fundraisers/Glasgow Ribbon Run.
The next article is attributed to Debbie Hall, and it tells us of a 15,000 cash boost handed to Dementia Hub. The West Lothian-based Rosemary Centre is one of 3 good causes to have secured a share of £25,000 of funding thanks to ScotMid's Community Connect initiative. The Rosemary Centre, based in Polbeth, West Lothian, has been awarded the top grant of £15,000. The charity supports older people living with dementia in the community. This funding will be used to provide nutritious, healthy lunches and snacks, offering members valuable time to socialise and help to combat the isolation they face due to their condition. Anne Marson, Centre Manager at Rosemary Centre, said, "We are overwhelmed with this generous donation from ScotMid. The support will enable us to continue providing healthy meals to members while they socialise together, significantly improving the quality of life for dementia patients." Lukey House and Play Therapy Base also got a boost following a vote by the ScotMid members. Lukey House, based in East Lothian, has been awarded £5,000, along with, while Dalkeith-based Play Therapy also received support.
This is an unattributed article. Glowing report for top class playgroup team. A West Lothian playgroup has been handed a gold star from education inspectors. Howden playgroup staff were said to be warm and supportive of the children in their care. They were praised for being very good role models for children and supporting them effectively in explaining their feelings and emotions, helping the children show care and concern for one another, and learning to solve disagreements calmly and amicably. Other highlights of the Education Scotland report include children are making very good progress in communication and early language, and in maths, as well as in health and well-being. The children are achieving well across a range of areas, and staff are highly inclusive and welcoming to all children and families. Playgroup manager Cheryl Hawthorne said, "I am extremely proud of my team and the amazing report we received. It shows the hard work and commitment our team consistently give in ensuring our nursery provides our children a nurturing, child-centred experience to support their play and learning, which allows them to explore, be curious and creative while being respected and their voices heard." She went on to point out, "Our children and their families will always be at the heart of everything we do, and we're delighted this shone through in all aspects of the report." And there are lovely photographs with some of the children and the staff.
Olivia faces the chop and raises £1,000 for 2 brilliant causes. This is an unattributed article. A West Lothian teenager has made her whole family proud after she went for the chop to raise over £1,000 for 2 good causes. Olivia McRae decided to have her long blonde hair cut into a stylish bob to help children who are undergoing treatment for cancer. The 13-year-old St Kent's pupil donated her hair to the Little Princess Trust and raised enough through the donations to split the £1,100 between the charity and the Goth in Armadale. The teen, who has autism and ADHD, said she had wanted to help kids feel good about themselves because she knows how it feels to be different. Her delighted mum Jennifer said she has raised in total £1,100 and sent her hair and a donation to the Little Princess Trust and a donation to the local charity in Armadale called the Goth to help with much needed repairs so they can continue to help the local community. She got her hair cut at Talking Heads in Armadale by the amazing Fiona Holborn, who Olivia calls Auntie Fifi, and it was live streamed on Facebook on the day. She wanted to give a child the gift of a wig and the chance to be the princess or prince that they are. We are so proud of her. She has autism and ADHD, and she said that she knows what it's like to be different from everyone else, and if she can help someone just to be happy just by cutting her hair, then that makes her so proud. Her little sister Holly called her a superhero. And there's some lovely pictures here of Olivia about to get her haircut, and then there's a picture of I'm presuming it's the hairdresser Auntie Fifi holding the pigtail of the hair that's been cut off.
GP surgery status quo is simply not good enough. Council demands improvement from government. An article by Stuart Somerville. West Lothian Council is to write to the Scottish Health Minister demanding improvements to GP surgeries across the county. The Council passed a motion raised by Conservative Group leader Damien Doran-Timpson. It comes after capital spending on NHS projects was stalled for 2 years. Councillor Doran-Timpson told a meeting of the Council his constituents in East Calder need to know what the plan is. The move comes as the surgery in the rapidly growing town faces major structural issues. Locals have campaigned for 20 years for new facilities. The surgery was built for a patient list of 4,500, but currently has 14,000. That figure will continue to grow as the Calderwood core development area of 4,000 new homes develops. Similar problems face Winchborough, Bathgate, Armadale and parts of Livingston. Councillor Doran-Timpson told a meeting of the Council, "We need to look at what is going to happen going forward. It's not in our remit, but it is with the Scottish Government. We need to know what the plan is moving forward because we have not heard anything from the Health Minister. The status quo simply isn't good enough. GP surgeries need to keep up with the number of new homes. To me, it's nonsense that planning does not take into account GP surgeries. You can have a GP surgery that's at capacity and yet you can build 2,000 houses next to it. Let's see what we can do to make things better. Councillor Peter Heggie, seconding the motion, pointed out that those not registered with a GP practice had no option but to turn up at St John's Hospital in Livingston, adding to the pressures at the hospital. In an amendment, SNP Group Leader Janet Campbell pointed to the investment the Scottish Government had made in the development of multidisciplinary teams, which were now rolling out across communities, bringing services into the community. This would help to reduce GP workloads. The problems in surgeries were caused by the lack of space needed for the new multidisciplinary teams. She accused Councillor Dorn Timpson of virtue signalling, having never pursued the plans for the surgery with Lothian Health Board or the NHS. She told the meeting that Lothian Health Board had sat on plans for 3 years for a new surgery in East Calder. The freeze of capital spending in the NHS was forced upon the government by the Tory cuts from Westminster, she said.
Popular hotel up for sale, and an article attributed to Debbie Hall. A popular West Lothian hotel and takeaway has hit the market. The lease for Happy Valley Hotel in Blackburn is up for sale and is said to have huge potential for new owners. The property consists of a fully detached accommodation, a former takeaway, as well as an open-planned pub. As advertised on RightBiz, the large business is on sale for £425,000 and would offer huge potential for new owners who could rent out the takeaway, which is currently closed. As for the accommodation, the property boasts 6 bedrooms, a living room, a kitchen and a bathroom on the first floor. While it has previously been let out, it can be used on a private basis or small owner's flat with additional letting bedroom potential. RightBiz adds, the Happy Valley Hotel occupies a central point at the heart of the town, a great trading location to capture passing trade as well as to serve the local community. The property is fully detached with accommodation over ground and first floor. The public bar is located on the ground floor, while owner's flat letting accommodation is located on the first floor. The takeaway unit is situated on the ground floor with main entry to the left of the public house entrance. The opportunity would represent an excellent hands-on trading opportunity, or alternatively, the business could be an excellent let or part letting opportunity for a hands-off owner.
Calls for a crackdown on nuisance neighbours. Appeal made for more support. It's an article by Stuart Somerville. Antisocial behaviour laws need to be reviewed to help councils deal with neighbours behaving badly, it has been claimed. West Lothian councillors have agreed to tighten rules around reporting antisocial behaviour and review how the existing legislation works. The agreement comes after Conservative councillor Angela Dorn-Timpson raised a motion at full council calling for more support for people whose lives are made a misery by neighbours. Independent councillor Andrew Maguire suggested that it was time for a wider national redraw of the 20-year-old laws to give councils more powers to deal with problem neighbours. The council's Safer Neighbourhood team works with tenants to solve disputes between neighbours, but it is bound by the legislation which defines what can be classed as antisocial behaviour. Tenants often complain that the rules are ineffective in stopping neighbours behaving badly and that those who complain are not supported. Seconding the motion, Councillor Damien Dorn-Timpson said, "I'm sure every councillor in this chamber has had to deal with the issue of antisocial behaviour. I feel for the housing team, and the Safer Neighbourhood team are restricted in what they can do. That's not to say we can't look forward and do better. I'm sure we can make improvements. It's awful when a neighbour's life is impacted so badly by those who just don't care what their actions are. It's time we started getting behind the victims and helping those people, and making sure the people carrying out antisocial behaviour face the consequences of their actions. The Council has published information about dealing with neighbour disputes on its website and the steps tenants can take. There was broad support for the Tory motion, but a composite amendment from the Labour and SNP groups highlighted that much of what was being called for was already in place, including ongoing reviews of cases. The composite from Labour's Craig Meek and the SNP's Maria Macaulay's amendments agreed a review of the support provided by the Council to victims of antisocial behaviour, review the customer satisfaction survey to ensure that it captures the feedback on how the Council dealt with concerns raised, and a progress report to be brought. The Conservatives had called for the 3-month rule, whereby an antisocial behaviour warning is removed from someone's record, be extended to 6 months. Councillor Maguire told the meeting the issue was frustrating for residents and professionals. He added, the legislation passed in 2004 perhaps needs modernising. Local authorities need more powers to investigate antisocial behaviour. Also, there's a very fine line between what's classed as antisocial behaviour and what's criminality and the responsibility of Police Scotland. Drug consumption and drug dealing are perfect examples of that. Though I'm going to support the composite amendment, I do congratulate Councillor Doran Timson for bringing this forward because I think it's hugely important. I'm glad we're taking proactive steps to modernise the service. It can only be a good thing. I think the central point here is that we do not need to look at legislation around antisocial behaviour. We need to check that it's fit for purpose and gives people what they need.
Fresh hopes of a railway station for a growing town. This is an article by Stuart Somerville. A new railway station in Winchborough could be funded by a government development fund. The long-running campaign for a new rail station in West Lothian was dealt a blow earlier this year when the Scottish Government ruled out paying the estimated £18 million cost. But council bosses say they could potentially tap into a £50 million pot through the city regional deal. The deal is an alliance of councils in the southeast of Scotland and Holyrood and Westminster governments set up to focus on economic development. Head of Economic Development Craig McCorriston told councillors any decision would ultimately be made by ministers. Asked if there was a plan B if the bid for city regional deal funding failed, Mr. Corriston said the steering group continues to look at all the available options to deliver the project, but the principal focus is on a bid into the city regional deal. It does seem that all parties are focused on making that work. But, he added, it's an application that the council will not be in control of. We may submit the application, but the decisions will ultimately be made by the City, Region, Deal and Scottish Government ministers. Mr. McCorriston said a detailed design for the station would need to be drawn up before potential costs would be known and an application made to the CRD fund. We need to know how much we are applying for, he added. Councillor Angela Doran Timpson asked what pressure the council could put on the Scottish Government and developers to get the plans ready. Mr. McCorriston said that the council was encouraging the city regional deal to be part of the steering group working on station plans. He added Transport Scotland are being helpful in developing the business case. Engagement is at a high level across all parts of government. A Labour motion agreed that West Lothian Council could potentially become a co-promoter of plans to build the station. It urged officers to report back to the council what steps the council could take on the role. Having been promised as part of the master plan more than a decade ago, the station's development has stalled. Mr. McCorriston told a meeting of the full council the Edinburgh and the South East Scotland City Region Deal, CRD, as an infrastructure fund to support development of 7 strategic sites across the region. Winchborough is one of the named strategic sites. It is noted that at least £50 million will be available via this fund, but the exact figure and the source of this funding has not yet been confirmed by the Scottish Government. This has been raised with ministers and an update is awaited. Despite this obstacle, the steering group is proceeding to update the existing business case for the railway station to ensure that an application to the fund can be submitted at the earliest opportunity. Winchborough Developments Limited, WDL, the lead developer for the Winchborough Core Development Area, has indicated that it would be willing to partially fund a station. The developer has already committed to progressing a number of associated works, such as creating access roads and the park and ride facility in the new town centre, which would also serve the railway station and therefore reduce the cost of the project's unfunded balance. WDL has also indicated that in addition to the associated works, it would provide a cash contribution to the overall cost of the station. The developers claim they already have made a business case for the new station first planned in 2012, even though it is not down to them as the developers to do so. Last year, WDL published research which showed that a station could take up to 500,000 car journeys a year off the roads into Edinburgh. While some major road infrastructure around Winchborough has been put in place as the village grows into a town, with more than 4,000 new homes, the rail plans have been dogged by delays. A spokesperson for Transport Scotland, the National Transport Agency, earlier told the Courier, "It is clear that there is a keen interest to build a station at Winchborough. However, a number of issues require detailed investigation before any further comment could be made."
Controversial plans for care to be rejected. And this is another article by Stuart Somerville. West Lothian's leader has backed COSLA's rejection of the controversial National Care Service plans. Lawrence Fitzpatrick, a long-term critic of Holyrood centralisation, spoke out as it was revealed the plans had so far cost more than £28 million. COSLA, the umbrella organisation for Scottish local authorities, withdrew its support for the plan on Friday. The organisation's health and social care spokesman, Councillor Paul Kelly, said the bill did not represent the work that councils had contributed to the proposals. On Tuesday, Councillor Fitzpatrick, Labour leader of West Lothian, told the local Democracy Reporting Service the costs are enormous. Councillor Fitzpatrick urged ministers to listen to local authorities. He told the LDRS the Scottish Government must recognise the flaws in their proposals for a National Care Service, NCS. Fundamentally, the proposals do not directly address the existing challenges relating to how health and social care services are funded across Scotland. Councillor Fitzpatrick added, "While we recognise that there is a role for a national approach and consistency in relation to national improvement, standards and oversight, it is not clear that this is best progressed through the development of an NCS." At a recent meeting of the Executive, the Council rejected the proposals in response to the latest Scottish Government consultation. Local SNP councillors called for a softening of the tone of the response. Deputy Group Leader Pauline Stafford reminded councillors that Labour nationally had supported the foundation of NCS. Announcing the COSLA decision on Friday, Councillor Kelly said, "Local government is committed to continuing our engagement with key areas of reform which can deliver improved outcomes for people, unpaid carers and our workforce. We cannot, however, offer our support for the legislation brought forward at this stage." Ministers have said they are extremely disappointed that some in COSLA were trying to frustrate progress of the bill, which is yet to have its second reading in Holyrood. Major unions, including GMB and Unison, also withdrew support for the plan in September. The plan for the NCS have undergone substantial redraw, but still allow little real input by local authorities in the running of health and care services in the future. This lack of local oversight is at the core of Councillor Fitzpatrick's opposition to the NCS. He told the LDRS, local people should be very concerned that the proposals for the National Care Service Board would remove members of a National Care Service local board, including locally elected members. West Lothian Council would strongly oppose any proposals in relation to this due to the implications that this would have for local accountability. This is undoubtedly removing local accountability and decision-making from West Lothian and a form of centralising local services. The costs of creating and operating a new national board with its associated infrastructure are enormous, particularly given the financial challenges facing local and frontline health and social care services are also a major cause for concern. The development of the National Care Service will also provide an additional layer of governance and reporting for health and social care services. Such significant changes are not necessary and distract from the significant and urgent investment that is required in social work and social care locally and across Scotland. COSLA has undertaken extensive discussions and negotiations with the Scottish Government concerning a number of ongoing challenges and risks in respect of the NCS. There is concern that these negotiations have not resulted in positive outcomes, with a number of matters remaining unresolved, including fundamental disagreement on many areas. The Scottish Government confirmed on Tuesday in a written answer to Scottish Tory Chairman Craig Hoy that £28,730,224 had been spent on work related to the NCS. The project, which would centralise adult social care and social work into a single body, ultimately accountable to ministers, has been beset by delays and uncertainty over costs since it was announced by Holyrood in 2022.
Now, the announcements, all of which are deaths. Tom Bryce, Broxburn, peacefully on Monday the 23rd of September 2024. A funeral service will be held at the Uphall South Church on Tuesday the 15th of October 2024 at 2 p.m, followed by a committal at the West Lothian Crematorium at 3 p.m, to which all family and friends are welcome. Brian Mill Campbell, Murtley Dechmont, peaceful at St John's Hospital on Thursday the 26th of September 2024, aged 89 years. Brian, dearly loved husband of Francis and much loved dad to Michael and Gary, loving grandfather to Robbie, Rory and Caris. A funeral will be held at the West Lothian Crematorium on Thursday the 17th of October 2024 at 3 p.m. Betty Glenn, née Curran, born on the 15th of March 1939 and died on the 3rd of October 2024, peacefully after a short illness at St John's Hospital on Thursday the 3rd of October 2024. Betty, loving wife of Willie, beloved mum to Alan and the late Liz, a beloved mother-in-law, granny, great-granny, sister and family member. Requiem Mass for Betty will take place at St John's Cantius and St Nicholas R.C. Church, Broxburn, on Monday, the 21st of October at 9:30, thereafter to West Lothian Crematorium at 11 a.m, to which all family and friends are respectively invited. R.I.P. Lived in Livingston but formerly came from Broxburn. Margaret Grant, peacefully at home on Thursday the 3rd of October 2024, after a long illness, bravely borne. Margaret, beloved wife of the late John, both formerly of Lindburn, a loving mum, nan and grandma. Funeral service at Perth Crematorium on Monday the 21st of October at 2 p.m, to which all family and friends are invited. Now we'll continue with some more stories from the Courier. A wee sad story here about vandals who trashed a kid's fairy garden and destroyed toys there. And the subtitle is that nursery children upset by selfish attack on their playground. And this is an article attributed to Debbie Hall. Children who attend a West Lothian nursery were left upset when they turned up on Monday morning and found vandals had broken into the playground to trash toys and steal kids' paint. Staff at First Class Nursery Livingston Village were confronted with the mess when they arrived to open up after the weekend and were left disheartened and upset by the sight that greeted them. At some point over the weekend, vandals had smashed ornaments, daubed the walls and playground area with paint, broke toys and trashed a fairy garden. Angry manager Katrina Davidson said, "When we opened the nursery on Monday morning, we were so disheartened and upset by the sight of the nursery grounds. Someone had smashed all of our ornaments at the entrance, used them, stole the children's paints after making a mess over the ground and the walls. They opened an Amazon parcel that was left in the garden and threw it all over the garden, as well as taking a few items from the package. They destroyed the fairy garden that the children and staff had worked very hard to create. They threw ride-on toys up onto our canopy, luckily did not damage it, and broke toys in the preschool garden." Katrina is now appealing to people in the area to get in touch if they saw anything suspicious over the weekend or have captured anyone on doorbell footage with paint bottles. She added it was upsetting for the children and the staff to see the vandalism of the garden and resources that they had cherished. "I am extremely disappointed that someone would be so callous and hope that it is an isolated incident." A Police Scotland spokesperson said around 9:05 on Tuesday, 8th October, officers received a report of damage at premises in Kirtlane, Livingston. Inquiries are at an early stage. An unusual thing for the pictures that are in the Courier, the 5 children who are pictured here with one of the workers in the place and the manager, Katrina, all looking at the camera, all very unhappy looking, and there's even some tears from the wee lassie that's standing, being held by the manager. A very sad sight.
Touch and go for tiny little boy. Baby Elijah critical after traumatic birth at just 25 weeks. It's an unattributed article. A young West Lothian mum has given birth to a baby boy at just 25 weeks pregnant after a traumatic labour. Kat Lawrence Stone was diagnosed with preterm premature rupture of the membranes, or PPROM for short, which causes early birth and can bring a higher risk of infection. The 23-year-old mum gave birth to Elijah James Michael Tate on September 21st at the Royal Infirmary of Edinburgh, almost 4 months before his due date, reports Edinburgh Live. Elijah was described as a micro-preemie baby due to being born before 26 weeks. Since his birth, weighing in at just 1.9 ounces, he's remained in neonatal intensive care. Kat and her partner Graham Tate have 2 other kids and have admitted they just don't know how to feel. Kat told Edinburgh Live, "I was 25 weeks pregnant and at 19 weeks I was diagnosed with PPROM, so my waters had burst. When my waters burst, by rights, the baby is meant to come within that week. We were told to prepare for the worst. I was going to St John's Hospital in Livingston for monitoring. The baby hung on to 20 weeks with just 25 millilitres of fluid. At 20 weeks he lost all fluid. There was no protection around him, and both him and I were at high risk of infection. Kat gave birth 5 weeks later. On Friday, September the 13th, Graham rushed Kat to St John's, and after an hour she was blue lighted to the Royal Infirmary of Edinburgh. They were preparing to deliver at the Royal because I was in labour. They managed to stop labour, and I was let out on September the 15th. I was going to my usual appointments. Then on September the 20th, I was blue lighted to the Royal again. I was in labour all night, 24 hours, and they couldn't see any sign of dilating. They had me on everything, but nothing was working. Kat then visited the toilet and was able to feel Elijah's head. Her partner checked and rushed to get the midwife. She continued, "The midwife got me back on the bed and checked, but turns out my cervix wasn't dilated or open. After being checked, I turned to get some sleep. I put my hand down and there was the head. My partner panicked. Before I knew it, there was around 8 doctors in the room." Kat and her partner tried to remain as calm as possible as the newborn was delivered. Elijah was born sunny side up, where the face is looking up. Only around 5% of babies are born in such a way. She added, "As he was born, he was rushed away to resuscitation. I, unfortunately, had retained placenta. The cord had snapped in half. I lost 1,500 millilitres of blood and was rushed into surgery. I had to have a blood transfusion due to losing 40% of my blood. I can't remember that much, but the baby was completely critical when born. He had flatlined and his heart had stopped. He came back around. Wednesday came and the baby was showing he was just too weak and giving up. Kat and Graham were again told to prepare for the worst. She told us, he was in a really bad way, but within 5 hours he managed to bring himself around a bit. It has been touch and go since. Saturday was the first good day he has had. Now he's critical but stable. He's opened his eyes slightly for the first time." While dealing with her emotions, Kat is also trying to keep her 2 other children safe and calm. Jay, he's 6 years old. He isn't taking it too well. And Delilah, who is 10 months old, has just been really unsettled due to the situation. "I don't know what to feel. I am quite low and emotional, and it was a traumatic labour. I just want to cry. It's a lot to deal with. I still haven't managed to get any midwife checks after having the baby due to being with him as he is more important. I'm terrified. We come all the way from Livingston as St John's doesn't take babies under 32 weeks. He deserves every prayer and credit for his fight already."
Volunteers are exhausted by takeover plan, and this is another article by Stuart Somerville. A bid by West Lothian Council to have community centre volunteers take over ownership of buildings is leaving workers exhausted and putting people off using the spaces, it has been claimed. Management committees of community centres have been asked to consider taking on ownership of buildings to save £1 million. Other options include taking a full repairing and insuring lease or accepting all charges being billed from the council. The council says the current model where it pays for the building but the management committee keeps any profits made is unsustainable. But one community centre worker said this week she was exhausted by the process and said the plans were actually damaging centres by deterring groups from committing to make any bookings. The SNP demand for a delay to the January deadline for potential transfer of community centres to volunteers was narrowly defeated in the council chambers this week. Pauline Stafford, the SNP group deputy leader, branded the plan as a hard-nosed fire sale. Councillor Stafford said, "I think our communities are being gaslit by this approach." She said, local people had witnessed what looked like a hard-nosed fire sale of some of the county's most valued community assets, adding these were assets which this council was entrusted to be the custodian of, not the owner of. And she went on, "We've got 36 of our most valued community centres now under threat." Outside the council chambers, there's general concession that politically the council plans could have been better handled. There's also the belief that those most affected could have had earlier notice of what the council's options were. Staffers also feel they could have been engaged at an earlier point to identify other potential ways of cutting costs. While some community centres may be ready to roll with becoming independent of the council, many more, and especially the smaller village halls, are not. The motion called on the council to extend the timescale for local organisations to make any decision and to provide support for the communities and carry out consultation with a view to forming a group of stakeholders and a report back to the council on the advice and information provided to these community groups and the support which has been offered to enable asset transfer. One community centre staffer said, "Do you know the council is putting on workshops on how to run community centres? You couldn't make this up. If it is that easy, why are they not running the community centres to a profit?" It's all just a box-ticking exercise by the council, so they can say they have done everything they can to make this madness work. And it is the management committees who aren't stepping up to take over the running of the centres. We will get the blame if the centre shuts down. Why can't they put all this planning and organisation into running the community centres efficiently, professionally and profitably to benefit each community? At the moment, because of all the uncertainty, the community centres are having difficulties in getting long-term lets and clubs setting up. So even if we agree to take over the community centre, we are starting from zero, not with a thriving going concern. I'm exhausted with it all. I feel the whole situation has been drawn out. If a management committee needs more time, they should be able to get it. For the rest of the committees, it should stay the same, and they should stay the same timeline. At the council meeting, Lawrence Fitzpatrick said no community will be left without a proper meeting place, and we will give the assurance on this basis. I would point you to the success of the community asset transfer at Low Port Centre.
Locals join forces in Path Fight, an article by Stuart Somerville. An Island Villages campaign for improved, safer footpaths has been thrown a lifeline by neighbours who want to see a missing link opened between the two communities. East Whitburn residents joined villagers from Stonyburn and members of local walking groups at a meeting to discuss how best to press for building of the final few yards of a footpath to link their communities. A survey in East Whitburn showed more than 500 people regularly use the Foul Shields footpath and supported its completion to Hen's Nest Road. Stonyburn has fought for years for improved footpath access in and around the village. It's a problem shared by those in East Whitburn. The main road connecting the two villages is the narrow and winding B Road, Hen's Nest Road. It's only an 8-minute drive, but a risky hour-long walk. Frustratingly, there's only a few hundred yards gap between Hen's Nest Road and the footpath built by the Scottish Woodland Trust through Foul Shields Wood to Stonyburn. Walking that route would take around 15 to 20 minutes. Whilst most of the footpath has been finished, it stops within sight of Hen's Nest Road. You could almost throw a stone from the farm gate to the road. Since the pathway was built, many more villagers from Stonyburn have been using the Foul Shields path for daily exercise. But to get to East Whitburn, you still need to walk or cycle Hen's Nest Road. At a meeting held by the Stonyburn and Bent's Future Vision Group last week, members of a local walking group said that their regular walks have to start with a bus journey to get out of Stonyburn to access the existing paths network in the rest of the county. Stacey Johnson from East Whitburn, who runs a local community group, Bash Community Buzz, attended the Stonyburn meeting to offer support for the work and said, "Money's not an issue. The Woodlands Trust wants the path built to East Whitburn. It would connect to all other pathways up to Whitburn and beyond." Stacey said, "The numbers we have seen increase using the path have been phenomenal. We walk the path every day and we knew a certain number of people, but we're seeing more and more new faces. Even people coming from Blackburn and Whitburn walk in the area. Sandy Edgar, who leads the campaign in Stonyburn, has made a video to show to the council to highlight the local support for the project. He said it really is the case that if you build it, people will come, people will use it. Many parents are keen to see the pathway finished because it would complete a safe cycling route for Stonyburn children who attend Whitburn Academy or St Kentigern's in Blackburn. The council has been in negotiations with landowners, but agreement has yet to be reached, and villagers fear that stalemate will see the missing link plan wither and disappear as other planned pathways in West Lothian prosper. Villagers in both communities are determined that this doesn't happen. Safe routes for cycling, walking and wheeling are a priority for the council's active travel plan, set to be agreed as a blueprint for developing a path network for the next 5 years. Core to the active travel plan is encouraging people away from short car journeys and towards a more active lifestyle. Stacey and fellow East Whitburn campaigner Gwen Kempick, who also attended the Stonyburn meeting, and others occasionally walk Hen's Nest Road but do so reluctantly. It's a B road, but people speed. It has blind bends and is dense with roadside growth. There's also additional traffic at the moment with new housing being built on the road. It's a nightmare. It's dangerous, said Gwen.
Revamp for Asda Superstore. An article attributed to Debbie Hall. Asda shoppers in Livingston will now be able to enjoy new in-store services and features after the retailer completed upgrading the supercentre as part of a £50 million investment across 170 stores in the UK. As part of a programme announced in June to improve the shopping experience for customers, 50 larger stores will receive major upgrades, with these changes having already been made to the Livingston store. Upgrades have been made to the store and include the addition of new modern fixtures, graphics and feature lighting to the George department, a new foyer design and revamp, new seasonal aisles, new look counters, parcel services and drop-off points, and new flooring and lighting. As part of the wider programme, all 170 stores, including the Livingston store, will receive refreshed exterior and interior decoration. These stores will also receive redecorated trolley bays, new signage, improved toilet facilities and exterior landscaping work. A delighted Ian Brackenbury, the Senior Director of Construction and Implementation at Asda, this week told the West Lothian Council, "Customer service is always a high priority for us, and we regularly look at how we can enhance stores and meet the needs of our shoppers." Through this significant investment, we are bringing new and exciting services to customers while also upgrading the existing components of our established stores. This enhancement programme reflects our commitment to providing the best possible experience for our customers as we continue on our journey to grow and invest in the business to ensure long-term success. Asda boasts 610 superstores, supermarkets and Asda Living stores across the UK.
Unions opposed to drugs tests for staff, an article by Debbie Hall. Unions have reiterated their opposition to random drink and drug testing on specific groups of council staff. West Lothian Council is moving to introduce a controversial testing policy which initially brought the threat of strikes from the GMB and other unions. Unions opposed the implementation as discriminatory because it targeted specific work groups in safety-critical roles. These include HGV drivers or bus drivers or those who operate heavy machinery, about 1,500 staff. In September 2019, GMB members voted by 83.9% in favour of a strike against the plan. A moratorium on its introduction was put in force when lockdown was announced at the start of the COVID pandemic in spring of 2020. Speaking after plans to reintroduce the random testing came before a meeting of the Council's Corporate Policy and Resources Policy Development and Scrutiny Panel, Tom Carr-Pollock of the GMB said random testing should apply to the whole workforce. Since the introduction of the current policy, there have been 4 disciplinary cases leading to disciplinary action where the allegation was inability to carry out duties due to alcohol or drugs. There have been 10 occasions since 2019 when with-cause testing has been conducted. There have been 10 cases recorded where being under the influence of alcohol was given as the cause. However, all 10 cases were involving service users, not employees. Mr. Carr-Pollock told the Courier, "The trade unions have no issue with the Council randomly testing for drugs and alcohol as long as it is applied to the whole workforce and not just to specific groups of staff. Our expectation is that everyone who drives in the course of their work abides by the law. The Council already tests people where they are concerned about their presentation or behaviour, and the recent report has highlighted how low the numbers of just cause tests are."
Helping hand for those who lived in care. West Lothian Council will add its support to a growing national scheme which aims to improve life chances for people who have lived in care. A motion to recognise care experienced as a protected characteristic was agreed by the full council. The decision means that council policies will now consider the experience of care when forming policies, recognising the need to help level up the life chances of youngsters who grew up in care. West Lothian already has a proactive record in working with young people with care, and it has now developed policies which help those transferring to adulthood, looking at services and signposting continuing help that may be needed. Research has shown that those who grow up in care can face a variety of difficulties through no fault of their own. A motion proposed by independent councillor Andrew Maguire and seconded by Lib Dem Sally Patel has highlighted stark differences in life chances for homelessness to unemployment right down to whether they can access the internet at home. Care-experienced people are more than twice as likely to have experienced homelessness and more likely to earn 3/4 of the salaries of their peers. They are over 3 times as likely to have not had a full-time job by the age of 26 and almost twice as likely to have no internet at home. The findings of the Independent Care Review, carried out in 2020, led to the setting up of the Promise Scotland team to ensure that care-experienced children would grow up loved, safe and respected. A key recommendation to ensure children and young people reach their full potential is to ensure that care-experienced is a protected characteristic. Since 2023, 3 local authorities, Falkirk, Stirling and Edinburgh, have joined 55 other organisations in Scotland in signing up.
£130 million battery storage park gets the nod, an article by a staff reporter. A £130 million battery storage park has been passed through the Council Committee. The proposals by leading UK renewable energy firm OnPath Energy passed through West Lothian Council's Executive Committee without objection. The proposals will now be considered by ministers at the Scottish Government's Energy Consents Unit, who will make the final decision on granting consent. Stretching 3 hectares, the Pond Flexible Energy Park will meet the peak electricity demands of around 240,000 homes for 2 hours, or the average demands of around 600,000 households for the same period. Developed by one of the UK's leading onshore renewables developers, OnPath Energy, formerly Banks Renewables, the state-of-the-art facility will be located outside Bathgate. Pond flexible energy park will play a crucial role in Scotland's journey to meet its 2040 net zero goals by storing renewable energy when consumer demand is low and releasing it back to the national grid when demand is high, helping to balance the grid, make the most of renewable energy sources and reducing our reliance on imported fossil fuels. Michael Newton, sustainability developer at On Path Energy, said, "As Scotland moves towards its ambitious net zero targets, this battery storage facility will provide much needed flexibility in how we manage our renewable energy. Battery storage solutions like Pond have a massive role to play in reaching net zero targets and will become an increasingly vital part of our energy infrastructure as we move away from traditional energy sources like coal and gas. The new facility will store surplus energy generated from wind and solar farms when production exceeds demand and release it during peak consumption times, helping to stabilise the energy grid and improve the UK's energy security."
Charity AGM. The AGM for a charity that offers play-based support for preschool and primary age children is holding its AGM next month. Playworks AGM will be held on Teams on Monday, November the 4th at 7:30 p.m. The Teams meeting link is available from admin@playworks.org.uk, as is the charity's Memorandum and Articles of Association and Annual Directors' Report and Accounts. Inspiring children and their families for over 30 years, Playworks provides friendly and supportive services for families with young children. Broxburn Family Centre is a place in the community where you can make friends, share your struggles, learn new things and find amazing play opportunities for your children.
Sparkling reception marks opening of the new Opal Community Hub, an article by Debbie Hall. Cyrenian's Opal, which stands for Opportunities for Active Lives, service celebrated the opening of their new community hub last week on National Older Persons Day. MP Kirstine Sullivan officially opened the venue and she spoke about the value of community spaces like the Opal Community Hub, which has been developed into a warm and welcoming space for those aged 60 and over in the communities of West Lothian. The hub currently hosts monthly coffee mornings with guest speakers from various organisations, along with a monthly singing group and regular training sessions for volunteers. It also holds a comprehensive resource library with activities ranging from games like indoor curling to quiz packs, DVDs and more. These can be borrowed using the free loan service by any organisations or community groups looking for new ideas. Community worker Billy Hamilton said, "We're also so thankful for all the support we've received to transform our visions into reality. From the complete makeover from Alan and his team at B&Q Livingston and Valspar Paint to donations from Pinewood School, Linlithgow Grange Rotary Club and Opal volunteer Aileen." Billy added, "This has allowed us to decorate and create a welcoming space as well as a cosy well-being room. The Opal Hub is based in Bathgate at 27 George Street, where all are welcome to pop in and find out more about their services and volunteering opportunities. Opal can also be contacted on 01506 815 815 or email at opal@cyrenians.scot. And there are lots of lovely photographs of the official opening of the community hub, showing some of the volunteers who have helped make over the new facilities, and it does indeed look very welcoming.
And this is a sports article next. Lions not dazzled by Falkirk's light show. Livingston boss David Martindale reckons his side lacked firepower as they drew 0-0 at Falkirk on Tuesday. But the Almond Vale gaffer is delighted that they're still the only unbeaten side in the championship. Falkirk moved back on top of the second tier with the draw, but failed to sparkle after unveiling a high-tech LED lighting system before kick-off. Livingston's robust defence repelled everything Falkirk had to throw at them as they remain in third place. Falkirk threatened first when Calvin Miller combined with Keelan Adams before setting up Dylan Tate, but his shot was blocked by Livy skipper Jamie Brandon. Jerome Pryor was forced to save from Ethan Ross at a Falkirk corner. Ross had the ball in the back of the net in 61 minutes, but Adams had dragged the ball out of play before crossing. Michael Nottingham headed wide from a Livingston free kick, and Pryor saved well from Aidan and Nesbitt before fumbling an Adams shot just past the post. Martindale said, "It's another clean sheet and we're still the only unbeaten team in the league, so we have to take a huge positive from that. Falkirk are a good team, but I was a bit disappointed at our execution in the final third. I'm looking for a bit more from them. They need to look after the ball a bit better. We just need to be happy with a point."
Mental health support. World Mental Health Day takes place today, Thursday, and people in West Lothian are being reminded that help is out there. There is a local mental health wellbeing phone line service for children, young people and families who can call Listen and Link. Listen and Link staff are available to listen to what is happening for you at the moment and discuss services that you may choose to link with. You can call them on 01506 283 160 or request a callback by emailing mentalhealthsupport@westlothian.gov.uk.
Another article about football, and with a telling title: "Sloppy Livingston Attracts Bosses' Anger." Partick Thistle 0, Livingston 0, and the article is attributed to Ian Stephen at Firhill. Livingston on Saturday were the only unbeaten side left in the championship, but boss David Martindale felt they were sloppy as they drew 0-0 at Partick Thistle. It wasn't a thriller in Maryhill, and Martindale described it as a blood and guts encounter, but with leaders Ayr losing to Falkirk. Livingston are the only side in the second tier yet to suffer a defeat. The Lions could have won the match as substitute Christian Montano infused some much-needed creativity, setting up a late Liam Soule effort that was headed off the line by Lee Ashcroft. Ryan McGowan headed agonisingly wide of the upright in stoppage time, leaving the game goalless and Martindale dispirited ahead of Tuesday's crunch match at Falkirk. "I'm not really happy with how we've played, if I'm honest," groaned the Livy gaffer. "I thought it was blood and guts. We defended very, very well. They asked a lot of questions of us, a lot of balls into the box. They were pretty direct, first contacts, second contacts, and pressed us well, but I thought we had the better chance in the game. We created better entries in the second half, but it was a very transitional game. I think we've got to look after the ball a wee bit better. I think they've been sloppy." Martindale was pleased with how substitutes Montano, Andy Winter and Liam Soule fared at Firhill. "We've probably got one of the better squads in the league," said Martindale. "Every team in the league has a good 13 or 14. Genuinely do believe that we've got a really strong 20. In most weeks, the subs have had an impact on the game. So Andy had a wee chance. Liam Soule had a wee chance. I thought Montano played extremely well, got good entries down at the left-hand side and in the second half. That was a difficult game. You're coming away with the positives. I thought their back four defensively were very good. Two centre-backs especially were very dominant in the air and won a lot of first contacts. I don't think the midfield picked up. enough second balls, but you start and you end with a clean sheet, and you've got to get a point away from home. So that's probably a lot to like. We've now come to the end of this week's recording, and we hope you've enjoyed it. And as usual, we're going to remind you about the UBS stick. Can I remind you to place the USB stick in the wallet, reverse the label so the right-hand corner is at the top right-hand side, and post back to us as soon as possible. So, for this evening, it's goodbye from members of the team. From me, George.
Good night, Linda.
And it's good night from Steve.
And good night from Wendy.
And we say on behalf of Paul, good night as well. And he smiles there at me. And we look forward to you having a recording sent to you next week when the next team will be here. Thank you.